What we will be doing very soon is to put rules in place. First, we're going to pass a bill again that we passed, and Dobbs talked about it last night, and trying to help us get it done. We will prevent loans being made to people who shouldn't get the loans because they don't have the economic or social wherewithal to get it. By the way, the Wall Street Journal, which has been very critical of all you guys cause a problem, when we passed the bill in 2007 in the House to stop bad subprime loans, the Wall Street Journal was very indignant. They said, you are interfering with the free market, and what about all those people who should become homeowners and won't be able to? We will do that. Secondly, because it will stop those bad loans from being made. But somebody will come up with another way maybe to make it, as long as they can securitize. So the second thing we'll do is this, I hope. When it comes to securitization, as I said, that's been the problem. If I can lend you all a bunch of money and then sell the right to be repaid to somebody else, I probably will not be as careful in whether or not you can repay me. And the people who buy it from me, there's no way they can know as much as I know about whether you're a good risk or not. So we want to change the law so that when you securitize something, when you sell the right to be repaid, you can't sell 100% of the right to be repaid. You have to keep for yourself the right to be repaid the first 15 to 20%. Or they call it skin in the game. I can't make a loan to you and then not be worried anymore about whether you can repay. I have to retain a significant chunk. People in the insurance business understand this. If you're an insurer, you can get reinsurance in case you can't pay it all, but you have to retain some of the risk. And that's it. Or, I guess in the old days before the lottery, it would have been if you were a bookie and you lay off your bet, you got to keep some for yourself. In their operation. But we will be banning the bad loans, putting in some requirement on securitization, and finally, we will regulate the extent to which people can get themselves in debt. And people said, you're going to regulate hedge funds or private equity, all of the above. We're going to regulate activity. If you regulate by type of business, pretty soon there'll be a new type of business invented that's outside of the regulation. Because they'll look at what makes you regulated and they'll slip it. We are essentially going to have a major regulator, probably the Federal Reserve, that's still going to be discussed, that says to people, you cannot get so in debt, not individuals, but you cannot, to an institution, obligate yourself so much to the point where you could default and then cause all these other problems. And that's where the problem is. That's where they've had to step in. So we will be severely restricting people's ability to get too deeply in debt. There's too much better. One example of that, I'll give you last one, credit default swaps. Credit default swaps are really a form of insurance. I issue a credit default swap to you, guaranteeing you that your collateralized debt obligation derivative won't default. Usually, by the way, if you want to insure something, you have to have an insurable interest. I can't go out and insure some stranger's life. We don't want to have people having an interest in somebody else dying. And I have to show a regulator that I got the wherewithal to pay out my insurance claims, either by some combination of my own capital and my reinsurance. People are allowed to issue credit default swaps, insuring other people against losing money on a third party's insurance with no restriction and no showing that they have enough money to pay off. And there are trillions of dollars that these things issued. Now, you say, well, how can people do that? Well, the assumption was that these things would never default. So they issued credit default swaps, which are insurance against people defaulting. It's kind of like you decide to go into the business of issuing life insurance policies on vampires. They never die, so you don't have to worry. And that's what people did. And then the vampires started to die. So the assets started to decrease. That, by the way, is why doing something about foreclosure is so important. Because a lot of people are in a position now where when the assets deteriorate, they are at risk to make payments they can't pay. So we do want to slow that down. I should add, it was never the case that we should have stopped house prices from dropping some in an orderly way. Housing prices had gotten to be too high. There was a social problem. But people said, are you don't you want house prices to drop? And the answer is, you know what? I'd like to lose 20 pounds, but not by Sunday. The speed by which something happens is a relevant factor in how you do it. But we will be going forward with those kinds of regulations that will keep people, and it will be, we will regulate excessive leverage. So we know what to do going forward. And I would just summarize. It was not deregulation, technically, that caused our problem, but non-regulation. Just as in the 20s, they had the stock market, it was a new phenomenon, there were no rules. Franklin Roosevelt gave rules, but we benefited